Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he guided the heavy mining drill through another section of rock. The orange sun of Kepler 442b was setting behind the mountains, casting long shadows across New Angeles Colony. He had been working in the mines for 3 years now, and the routine had become second nature to him. Drill, blast, collect, repeat. It was simple work that paid well and let him save money for the future he wanted to build with Maya. The drilling machine hummed loudly as it bit into the mineral-rich stone. Jake was focused on his work when the emergency sirens began to wail across the colony. A sound was different from the usual shift change signals. This was the emergency alert that meant real trouble. Jake shut off his equipment and looked around. Other miners were doing the same thing, their faces showing confusion and concern. His radio crackled to life with the voice of Commander Helen Brooks. All personnel report to emergency stations immediately. We have a major transport accident involving the alien diplomatic convoy. Multiple casualties requiring immediate medical assistance. All available personnel with medical training or rare blood types report to the medical center now. Jake's heart started beating faster. He knew he had O-negative blood, which made him a universal donor. The medical staff had told all colonists about their blood types when they first arrived, in case of emergencies like this. He dropped his tools and ran toward the exit of the mine, joining other workers who were hurrying back to the colony center. That the transport vehicle that carried him back to town was full of worried faces. Everyone was talking about what might have happened. Some said it was an engine failure. Others thought it might have been an attack by hostile aliens. Jake just listened and hoped that whatever had happened, it wasn't too serious. When he reached the medical center, the scene was chaos. Human doctors and nurses were running between treatment rooms, and he could see strange alien figures lying on medical beds through the open doorways. The aliens looked nothing like humans. Their skin was blue-gray, and they had forearms instead of two. Their heads were larger than human heads, with big dark eyes that seemed to take up half their faces. Dr. Lisa Grant, the colony's chief medical officer, spotted Jake in the crowd of volunteers. "Morrison, thank God you're here. We need your blood type urgently. We have a critically injured alien child, and our standard treatments aren't working on their physiology." She led him quickly through the hallway to a treatment room, where he saw the most heartbreaking sight of his life. A small alien child was lying on the medical bed, her blue skin pale and getting paler by the minute. Next to her stood an adult alien who Jake assumed was her mother. The mother's 4 hands were pressed together in what looked like prayer, and her large dark eyes were filled with tears. "The child's name is Kirith," Dr. Grant explained quickly. "Her mother is Zareth, a diplomatic attach from the Vex High species. They were in the transport when it crashed. The child has severe internal bleeding, and nothing we're doing is stopping it. Her blood is leaking out faster than we can replace it." Jake looked at the small alien child and felt his heart break. She looked so young and helpless. Even though she was a different species, he could see the same innocence in her eyes that he saw in human children. "What can I do to help?" he asked Doctor. Grant pulled him aside and spoke quietly. "We've discovered something strange. Human blood seems to have properties that can stabilize Vex High cellular structure during trauma. We don't fully understand why, but early tests show that human blood can stop their internal bleeding and help their bodies heal. The problem is, we need someone with O-negative blood for this to work safely." Jake didn't hesitate for even a second. "Do it. Take whatever blood you need." "Jake, you need to understand the risks," Dr. Grant continued. "This is completely experimental. We don't know what giving your blood to an alien might do to either of you. There could be dangerous side effects. You could get sick or worse." Jake looked back at Kirith, who was getting weaker by the minute. Her mother Zareth was holding one of the child's hands and making soft sounds that Jake guessed were words of comfort in their alien language. The love between mother and child was the same across all species. "Doctor, that little girl is dying," Jake said firmly. "If my blood can save her, then we have to try. I can't stand here and let a child die when I might be able to help." Dr. Grant nodded and began preparing the equipment for the blood transfusion. The process was more complicated than a normal human blood donation because they had to modify the machinery to work with alien physiology. Jake lay down on a bed next to Kirith and watched as the medical team connected tubes and monitors. As his blood began flowing through the tubes toward the alien child, Jake felt a strange sensation. It wasn't painful, but it was different from anything he had ever experienced. He could almost feel a connection forming between himself and Kirith, as if their life forces were somehow linking together. The effect was immediate and amazing. Kirith's pale blue skin began to regain its normal color. Her breathing became stronger and more regular. The monitors showing her vital signs started beeping in healthier patterns. Zareth let out what Jake could only describe as a cry of joy and relief. Dr. Grant and her team watched in amazement as the alien child's condition stabilized and then began to improve rapidly. "I've never seen anything like this," she whispered. "The human blood isn't just stopping the bleeding. It's actually helping her cells repair themselves faster than should be possible." After an hour, the transfusion was complete. Jake felt weak, but happy. Kirith was sitting up on her bed, looking around with bright, alert eyes. She looked at Jake and said something in her alien language. Zareth translated with tears still in her eyes. "She says thank you for saving her life. She wants to know your name so she can remember the human who gave her his blood." Jake smiled at the little alien girl. "Tell her my name is Jake Morrison, and I'm glad I could help." As Jake was helped to a recovery bed to rest and regain his strength, he had no idea that this simple act of kindness would change not just his life, but the future of both species forever. 3 weeks had passed since Jake donated his blood to save Kirith's life. He had returned to his normal routine at the mining facility, but things at New Angeles Colony were far from normal. The alien diplomatic mission had extended their stay to allow Kirith to recover fully, and strange reports were coming from the medical center every day. Dr. Alan Carter, the colony's xenobiologist, had been studying Kirith's recovery with growing amazement. He called Jake to the medical center on a Tuesday morning, his voice filled with excitement and confusion. When Jake arrived, he found Dr. Carter pacing back and forth in his laboratory, surrounded by computer screens showing complex biological data. "Jake, what you did 3 weeks ago has created something we've never seen before," Dr. Carter began, his hands shaking slightly as he pointed to the screens. "Kirith isn't just healthy now. She's stronger than any Vex-High child should be. Her cellular structure has changed in ways that seem impossible." Jake sat down in a chair, trying to understand what the doctor was telling him. "What do you mean her cellular structure has changed?" Dr. Carter pulled up a series of images on his computer. "Look at these scans. This is what a normal Vex-High child's blood cells look like under a microscope." The image showed odd-shaped cells that looked nothing like human blood cells. "And this is what Kirith's blood looks like now." The second image was dramatically different. Kirith's blood cells looked like a mixture of human and Vex-High cells, but they were more organized and seemed to glow with an inner light. "Your blood didn't just save her life, Jake. It merged with her alien biology and created something entirely new. A hybrid cellular matrix that gives her abilities no Vex-High has ever had." Jake stared at the images, trying to process what he was seeing. What kind of abilities? Before Dr. Carter could answer, the laboratory door opened, and Zareth entered with Kirith walking beside her. The alien child looked completely healthy and was practically bouncing with energy. When she saw Jake, she ran over to him and hugged his legs, chattering excitedly in her alien language. Zareth smiled and translated. "She says she feels stronger every day, and she wants to show you something special." The adult alien gestured toward a table where several objects were arranged. There was a piece of metal that had been twisted into a knot, a rock that had been crushed into powder, and a small electronic device that was sparking with electricity. "Kirith did all of this?" "Yesterday," Zareth explained. "She bent the metal with her bare hands. She crushed the rock without any tools. And she touched the electrical device without being hurt by the power running through it. No Vex-High child should be able to do any of these things." Jake watched in amazement as Kirith picked up another piece of metal and began bending it like it was soft clay. Her small hands, which looked delicate and fragile, were somehow strong enough to reshape solid steel. "This is incredible," he whispered. Dr. Carter nodded enthusiastically. "But that's not all. We've tested her resistance to radiation, and she can survive levels that would kill most adult Vex-High. Her cognitive processing speed has increased by 40%. She's learning new languages and mathematical concepts faster than our computers can track." Zareth's expression became more serious. "Jake Morrison, I need to speak with you about something very important. What you have done for my daughter has implications that reach far beyond saving one child's life." She gestured for Jake to sit down, and then she began to explain something that would change his understanding of the universe forever. "The Vex-High species is dying, Jake. We have been slowly declining for over 300 years. Our genetic diversity has become too limited, and each generation is weaker than the last. Our scientists have searched the galaxy for a solution, but nothing has worked." Jake listened carefully as Zareth continued. "Your blood, your genetic material, represents something we have never encountered before. It doesn't just help us survive. It makes us stronger, more capable, more resilient. My daughter is proof that humans in Vex-High can create something better than either species alone." The weight of what she was saying began to sink in. "Are you saying that my blood could help save your entire species?" Zareth nodded solemnly. "We believe so. But it would require much more than a single blood donation. We would need your genetic material to create a new generation of hybrid offspring, children who combine the best qualities of both species." Jake felt dizzy as he tried to understand what this meant. "You're talking about having children with alien women?" "Not exactly," Zareth replied. "Our reproduction is different from yours. We can use genetic material in laboratory settings to create offspring without traditional mating. But yes, you would be the biological father of a new generation of hybrid beings." Dr. Carter interrupted with more scientific explanation. "Jake, based on our tests, your genetic compatibility isn't just with Kirith. Your DNA seems to have properties that could work with the entire Vex-High species, and possibly other alien species as well. You might be the key to genetic diversity that multiple civilizations have been searching for." Veltar, Zareth's research partner, entered the laboratory at that moment. He was a tall Vex-High scientist with intricate markings on his blue-gray skin. He spoke in accented but clear English. "Jake Morrison, my people's government has authorized me to make you an offer that we have never made to any human before." He placed a small device on the table that projected a holographic image of a beautiful alien world with crystal spires and floating cities. "This is our homeworld, Vex-High Prime. We offer you a position of the highest honor in our society. You would have access to technology beyond your current understanding. You would live in luxury that human civilization cannot provide. You would be remembered forever as the being who saved an entire species from extinction." Jake stared at the holographic world, his mind racing. 3 weeks ago, He had been a simple miner with simple dreams. Now aliens were offering him a chance to become the savior of their entire civilization. "What would this mean for my life here?" Jake asked quietly. "I have a girlfriend, Maya. I have friends and a job and a life that I've built on this colony." Zarath's expression softened with understanding. "We know this is not an easy decision. You would not have to abandon your human connections entirely. Maya Johnson could come with you if she chooses. We would welcome any humans who wanted to be part of this historic cooperation between our species." Veltar added more details. The genetic donation process would not be difficult or painful. Our medical technology is far advanced beyond what you have here. You would live comfortably while helping to create the first generation of human Vex-High hybrids. These children would grow up to be ambassadors between our peoples, bridging the gap between two civilizations. Jake looked at Kirith, who was still playing with pieces of metal, bending them into artistic shapes with her enhanced strength. She looked up at him and smiled, her large dark eyes full of innocence and hope. In that moment, Jake realized that his decision would affect not just his own life, but the lives of billions of beings across the galaxy. "How long do I have to decide?" Jake asked. Zara single quotes replied gently, "Take all the time you need. This is perhaps the most important decision any human has ever been asked to make. But please remember that while you consider your choice, my people continue to decline. Every day we delay is another day closer to our extinction." As Jake left the medical center that day, his head was spinning with possibilities and responsibilities. He had never imagined the simple act of donating blood to save a child had somehow made him the potential savior of an alien civilization, and he had no idea what he was going to do about it. Jake sat on the porch of his small apartment, watching the alien sun set over New Angeles colony. Maya Johnson sat beside him, her hand resting on his arm, but there was tension between them that hadn't been there a week ago. Ever since he had told her about the Vex-High offer, their relationship had been strained in ways he never expected. "So you're really considering this?" Maya said quietly, her voice carrying a mixture of hurt and disbelief. "You're thinking about leaving everything we've built together to go play savior to an alien species?" Jake turned to look at her, seeing the pain in her brown eyes. Maya was beautiful in a simple, honest way that had attracted him from the moment they met. She worked as an agricultural engineer, helping the colony grow food in the alien soil. Together, they had planned a future that seemed perfect in its simplicity. A small farm, children of their own, a quiet life on the frontier. "Maya, it's not that simple," Jake replied, trying to find the right words. "These people are dying. An entire civilization could disappear forever if I don't help them. How can I just ignore that?" Maya stood up and walked to the railing of the porch. "What about us, Jake? What about the life we planned together? What about the children we talked about having? Are you ready to give all of that up for aliens you barely know?" Before Jake could answer, they were interrupted by the arrival of a large transport vehicle. Commander Helen Brooks stepped out, followed by several people Jake didn't recognize. There was an older human man in an expensive suit, a woman in military uniform with captain's insignia, and behind them, Council Elder Vexon, the most senior. Vex-High Representative Jake had ever seen. Commander Brooks approached the porch with a serious expression. "Jake, Maya, I'm sorry to interrupt your evening, but we need to discuss the situation. This is Ambassador Nathan Ward from Earth Central Government, Captain Roy Mitchell from Colonial Defense Force, and you already know Council Elder Vex N." Ambassador Ward stepped forward and extended his hand to Jake. "Mr. Morrison, I've traveled a very long way to speak with you. The Earth government has been monitoring the situation here, and we believe this could be the most significant diplomatic opportunity in human history." Captain Mitchell added, "From a military perspective, an alliance with the Vex-High could provide us with defensive technologies we desperately need. There are hostile alien species in this sector that currently outgun us by a significant margin. Council. Elder Thexan spoke in a voice that sounded like wind through crystal caves. Jake Morrison, honored human, my people have waited 7 generations for hope like this. Our scientists estimate that without genetic intervention, the HFY species will be extinct within 50 years. You represent not just our salvation, but our evolution into something greater. Jake felt overwhelmed by the pressure from all sides. Everyone wants me to make this decision, but nobody seems to care what I actually want. Maya stepped closer to him, her voice rising with emotion. What about what I want, Jake? What about our plans? Are you going to throw away everything we have for people you don't even know? Ambassador Ward cleared his throat diplomatically. Miss Johnson, I understand your concerns, but you have to consider the bigger picture. Jake's genetic contribution could establish humanity as a major power in galactic politics. The technological and economic benefits could transform human civilization. I don't care about galactic politics, Maya shot back. I care about the man I love, and I don't want to lose him to some cosmic destiny he never asked for. Thexan's large dark eyes focused on Maya with what seemed like understanding. Human female, your attachment to Jake Morrison is clear and honorable. In our proposal, you would not lose him. You would join him on HFY Prime as an honored guest. Your offspring with Jake would also be valued, as fully human children would be important for maintaining genetic diversity in our hybrid program. Maya shook her head firmly. You want me to give up my life, my career, my world, just to follow Jake to an alien planet where I'd be nothing more than a guest? That's not a life. That's being a decoration in someone else's plan. Jake stood up and moved between Maya and the representatives. Everyone needs to stop talking about what I should do and what Maya should do. We're not pieces on a chessboard. We're people with our own thoughts and feelings. Captain Mitchell stepped forward. Jake, I understand this is difficult, but you need to think about your duty to humanity. This opportunity might never come again. If we can form an alliance with the HFY, it could protect human colonies throughout this sector of space. And if I refuse? Jake asked. What happens then? Vexon's expression became grave. If you refuse, my people will continue our slow decline toward extinction. Kirat H will likely outlive most of her generation because of your blood, but she will watch her species die around her. The hybrid vigor she gained from your donation will die with her. Ambassador Ward added, from humanity's perspective, we would lose the chance to form our first major alien alliance. The HFY have technologies that could advance human medicine, engineering, and space travel by centuries. Jake felt the weight of 2 civilizations resting on his shoulders. He looked at Maya, who was crying quietly now, and then at Kirath, who had just arrived with Zareth. The alien child ran over to Jake and hugged his legs, chattering excitedly in her own language. Zareth translated with a sad smile. She says she had a dream last night that Jake came to live on her world and played with her in the crystal gardens. She asks if dreams can come true. Maya wiped her tears and knelt down to Kirath's level. Despite her anger and hurt, she couldn't help but smile at the innocent alien child. She's beautiful, Jake. I can see why you want to help her people. Jake made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. I'll do it, but I have conditions. I won't abandon my humanity or my connection to Maya. If I'm going to be the bridge between our species, then I want both species to be represented in this process. He turned to Ambassador Ward. I want Maya to have a real role in this alliance, not just as my companion. She's one of the best agricultural engineers in the colonies. Let her help design food production systems for the hybrid children. Then he looked at Thexan. I want regular communication with Earth and the human colonies. I want to visit home at least once a year. And I want any hybrid children to learn about both their human and Vex-High heritage equally. Finally, he took Maya's hands in his. I know this isn't the life we planned, but maybe it's the life we're meant to have. We could be part of something bigger than ourselves, something that helps both our species grow stronger. Maya looked into his eyes for a moment, and Jake could see her struggling with the decision. Finally, she squeezed his hands and nodded. If we're going to do this, we do it together. But I want to help design the cultural integration programs too. These hybrid children will need to understand both species, not just their biology. Vexon's expression brightened considerably. This is most acceptable. Maya Johnson's expertise would be welcomed on Vex-High Prime. Together, you and Jake Morrison will help create not just biological hybrids, but cultural bridges between our peoples. As the representatives began discussing the practical details of the arrangement, Jake held Maya close and watched Kirat H playing in their small garden. The alien child's laughter sounded remarkably similar to human laughter, and Jake realized that maybe the differences between species weren't as important as the similarities. The choice was made, and there was no going back. Jake Morrison, simple, mining engineer, was about to become the most important human in galactic history. 2 months after Jake agreed to the Vex-High proposal, New Angeles Colony had become the center of unprecedented scientific and political activity. Ships arrived daily, bringing researchers, diplomats, and reporters from across human space. The simple mining colony had transformed into a bustling hub of interstellar cooperation. But not everyone was happy about the changes. Dr. Rachel Moore arrived on a research vessel from Earth, bringing with her a team of geneticists who were deeply concerned about the hybridization program. She was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes who had spent her career studying extinct species across the galaxy. Her first meeting with Jake was tense and uncomfortable. Mr. Morrison, I respect what you're trying to do, but you need to understand the historical precedent, Dr. Moore explained, as she showed Jake holographic records of other worlds. In the past 500 years, there have been 12 documented cases of genetic mixing between different alien species. In 11 of those cases, the donor species became extinct within 3 generations. Jake studied the data she presented, feeling a chill run down his spine. What happened to them? The same thing that always happens, Dr. Moore replied grimly. The donor species become so focused on helping the other species that they stop reproducing among themselves. Their genetic material gets absorbed into the hybrid population, and the original species disappears forever. Humanity could be facing the same fate. Maya, who was sitting beside Jake during the presentation, leaned forward with concern. Are you saying that helping the Vex-High could lead to human extinction? Dr. Moore nodded seriously. It's a real possibility. The Vex-High are asking Jake to father potentially hundreds of hybrid children. What happens to human genetic diversity when our best genetic material is being used to create aliens? What happens when other alien species hear about this and want the same help? Meanwhile, problems were also developing within the Vex-High community. Kethra, a young Vex-High male, who had grown up with Kirath, represented a growing faction of his people who opposed the hybridization program. He was tall for his age, with the typical 4 arms and blue-gray skin of his species, but his dark eyes burned with anger and resentment. The humans are contaminating our pure bloodline, Kethra argued during a heated community meeting. For thousands of years, the Vex-High had been a noble and distinct species. Now we are being asked to pollute ourselves with alien genetics just to survive. Where is our pride? Where is our honor? Several older Vex-High nodded in agreement with Kethra's words. They had watched Kirat H grow stronger and more capable, but they saw her changes as a corruption of what it meant to be truly Vex High. Her enhanced abilities came at the cost of her racial purity, and some believed that was too high a price to pay. The situation became dangerous when a group of extremist Vex High, led by Kethra's older brother, attacked 3 human colonists who were working near the diplomatic compound. The humans were not seriously injured, but the incident created fear and mistrust between the 2 communities. Jake found himself caught in the middle of increasing hostility from both sides. Humans were beginning to question whether the alliance was worth the risk, while some Vex High were questioning whether they wanted human help at all. The pressure was enormous, and it was affecting his relationship with Maya. "I never signed up for death threats and political protests," Maya said one evening as they watched angry demonstrators outside their apartment. "Half the humans on this colony think you're selling out our species, and half the Vex High think you're corrupting theirs. Maybe we made the wrong choice." Jake put his arm around her shoulders, but he could feel the tension in her body. "It's just growing pains. People are afraid of change. Once they see the benefits of cooperation between our species, things will get better. But things got worse before they got better." Kirat H began showing signs of genetic instability. The hybrid vigor that had made her so strong and capable was starting to cause problems. Her enhanced metabolism was burning through nutrients faster than her body could process them, and she was losing weight despite eating constantly. Dr. Carter called Jake to the medical center with urgent concern in his voice. "Jake, Kirat H is rejecting the hybrid changes. Her Vex High biology is trying to revert to its original state, but the human genetic markers are too integrated to remove. She needs another transfusion from you, and probably regular transfusions for the rest of her life." Zara T was beside herself with worry. "My daughter is dying again, but this time it's because of the very thing that saved her before. The hybrid changes are consuming her from the inside." Jake immediately agreed to provide another blood transfusion, but the implications were troubling. If Kirith needed regular transfusions to survive, what would that mean for the hundreds of hybrid children he was supposed to father? Would they all be dependent on his blood for their entire lives? The medical procedure was more complicated. This time, Kirath's hybrid biology had changed since the first transfusion, and her body was rejecting the human blood even as it desperately needed it. Jake had to undergo a painful process to modify his blood chemistry to make it more compatible with her current genetic state. During the transfusion, Jake experienced something he hadn't felt before. He could sense Kirith's life force, but there was also something else, something that felt like other presences calling out to him. Dr. Carter later explained that Jake was probably sensing the genetic potential for other hybrid children that his blood could create. "Your genetic material isn't just compatible with the Vex High," Dr. Carter revealed. "Our tests show that you could potentially create hybrid offspring with at least 6 other alien species we've encountered. You're not just the key to Vex High survival. You might be the key to a new form of evolution that could affect the entire galaxy." This revelation made Jake's situation even more complicated. Ambassador Ward immediately contacted Earth Central Government, and within days, ships began arriving from other alien civilizations who had heard rumors about the human with miraculous genetic compatibility. The Zephyrians, a bird-like species with declining fertility rates, sent a delegation requesting Jake's help. The Crystalline Collective, silicon-based beings who were slowly losing their ability to reproduce, offered incredible technological rewards in exchange for genetic assistance. Even the mysterious Void Walkers, who rarely interacted with other species, sent representatives to investigate Jake's unique properties. Jake felt overwhelmed by the sudden attention from across the galaxy. "I'm just one person," he told Maya one night as they watched alien ships landing at the colony's expanded spaceport. How can I be responsible for saving multiple species? Maya held his hand tightly, her own fears evident in her voice. What if Dr. Moore is right? What if helping all these aliens means the end of humanity? What if we lose ourselves trying to save everyone else? The weight of cosmic responsibility was crushing, but Jake knew he couldn't abandon Kirith, who was now completely dependent on his blood for survival. Every few weeks, he had to undergo the painful transfusion process to keep the alien child alive. She had become like a daughter to him, and her bright smile and innocent laughter made all the political complications seem less important. But late at night, when Jake couldn't sleep, he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. Had his simple act of kindness doomed humanity to extinction? Or was he really the bridge that would lead both species to a better future? The questions haunted him as more alien ships arrived each day, all carrying species that hoped Jake Morrison could be their salvation, too. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kevin Price, a quiet young scientist who had been working in the background of the research team, made a discovery that changed everything. He had been studying not just Jake's genetic compatibility with alien species, but the underlying mechanism that made it possible. Jake, I think I understand what makes you special, Dr. Price explained during an emergency meeting with all the major representatives. It's not just your blood type or your specific genes. It's something much more fundamental about human genetic structure. He displayed a complex holographic model showing DNA strands from multiple species. Humans have what I call adaptive genetic markers that allow our biology to interface with other life forms in ways that most species cannot. You're not unique because you're Jake Morrison. You're unique because you're human, and humans might be the most genetically adaptable species in the galaxy. Luna Morrison, Jake's sister who had arrived from Earth the week before, leaned forward with interest. Are you saying that other humans could do what Jake is doing? Dr. Price nodded enthusiastically. With proper preparation and medical support, yes. Jake was the first because he had the right blood type and was in the right place at the right time. But there could be dozens, maybe hundreds of humans who could serve as genetic bridges between species. This revelation transformed the entire discussion. Instead of Jake being the single savior that every species depended on, humanity as a whole could become the key to galactic genetic diversity and cooperation. Prime Minister Kexal, the supreme leader of the Vexhai, participated in the meeting via holographic projection from the homeworld. This changes our proposal significantly, Kexal stated in her crystalline voice. Instead of asking one human to sacrifice his life for our species, we could establish a cooperative program where many humans help many alien species while maintaining their own genetic independence. Ambassador Ward was practically vibrating with excitement. This could establish humanity as the most important species in galactic politics. Instead of being a minor colony species, we could become the genetic diplomats of the galaxy. But Jake was more interested in what this meant for his personal situation. Does this mean Kirat H won't be completely dependent on my blood anymore? Doctor. Price smiled. Actually, that's the best part. Once we understand the mechanism better, we can create synthetic alternatives that provide the same benefits as your blood. Kirat H and any other hybrids we create could eventually become self-sufficient. Zarath, who had been quiet during most of the discussion, finally spoke up. Jake Morrison, you have given my people hope when we had none. But I realize now that keeping you exclusively for ourselves would be selfish and ultimately limiting. Your gift should be shared with the galaxy. She stood and approached Jake with formal dignity. I propose that we establish a mobile research station, a ship that can travel between worlds and help multiple species while allowing you to maintain connections to your human heritage. Kirat H would be our proof that this cooperation can work, and she could serve as an ambassador between species. Maya squeezed Jake's hand as she considered this new possibility. A traveling research station sounds better than being trapped on one alien world. I could continue my agricultural work, helping different species learn to grow food on various worlds. Luna Morrison added her own perspective. Jake, this sounds like the kind of adventure our family always dreamed about. Dad used to say that humans were meant to explore and help others. This would be both. Captain Roy Mitchell brought up practical concerns. A mobile research station would need significant protection. There are hostile species in this part of the galaxy who might see human genetic abilities as a threat. We'd need a strong escort fleet. Prime Minister Kexall addressed this concern immediately. HFY would provide our most advanced defensive technology for such a mission. Your research station would be better protected than most military vessels. Over the following weeks, the plan took shape rapidly. The research vessel would be called New Horizon, and it would carry a mixed crew of humans and various alien species. Jake would serve as the primary genetic compatibility specialist, but other humans would be trained to assist him. Maya would lead the agricultural adaptation team, helping species learn to grow food in different environments. Kireth, now stabilized with synthetic blood supplements, would be the first hybrid ambassador. Her unique perspective as both Vex-High and enhanced with human genetics made her the perfect bridge between species. She was excited about traveling to different worlds and meeting new forms of life. Will we see worlds made of crystal? She asked. Jake in her rapidly improving English. Will we meet people who fly through space without ships? Will we help save other children like me? Jake smiled at her enthusiasm. We'll see all kinds of amazing things, and yes, we'll help save other children. Just like you. The launch of New Horizon was attended by representatives from 17 different species. The ship itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, combining human ingenuity, Vex-High technology, and innovations from half a dozen other civilizations. It was designed to be both a research facility and a comfortable home for its diverse crew. As Jake stood on the bridge of New Horizon, with Maya beside him and Kirith playing nearby, he reflected on how much his life had changed. 6 months ago, he had been a simple miner with simple dreams. Now he was embarking on a mission that could affect the evolution of life throughout the galaxy. Are you nervous? Maya asked as they prepared for their first jump to hyperspace. Jake considered the question carefully. I'm nervous, but I'm also excited. We're going to help species that are struggling to survive. We're going to create new forms of life that combine the best of different civilizations. We're going to be explorers and healers and diplomats all at the same time. Zareth approached them on the bridge, her 4 arms carrying various reports and documents. Jake Morrison, our first destination is the Zephyrian homeworld. Their fertility crisis is worse than ours was, and they've specifically requested your help. How long will it take us to get there? Maya asked. 3 days in hyperspace, Zareth replied. Enough time for you to review their biological data and prepare for the initial compatibility tests. As New Horizon engaged its hyperdrive and leaped into the swirling colors of hyperspace, Jake felt a sense of destiny fulfilling itself. He had saved one alien child with a simple blood donation, and that act of kindness had grown into something that could reshape the galaxy. Kirith pressed her face against the observation window, watching the stars streak past. Jake, do you think the children we help create will be happy? Jake put his hand on her shoulder and smiled. I think they'll be the happiest children in the galaxy, because they'll know that they exist, because different species chose to help each other instead of fighting. The New Horizon carried its crew toward their first mission, and Jake Morrison, former mining engineer, began his new career as humanity's first genetic ambassador. Behind them, New Angeles Colony continued to grow as a center of interspecies cooperation, and ahead of them waited worlds full of species who hoped that human kindness could help them survive and thrive. A simple act of saving one life had become the foundation for a new age of galactic cooperation, and Jake knew that this was only the beginning of the story.